Let's go straight to Shadow Cabinet Secretary Andrew Wallace now. Andrew, good to see you as always. Well, let's start with Dan Andrews. His mere presence has excited China. He's even appeared front and centre today in Beijing's propaganda machine, which has quoted Daniel Andrews in the Communist Party's flagship daily as being deeply honoured to attend President Xi Jinping's military parade. How would you describe the former Premier's trip over there?
Well, I'm absolutely speechless, Danica. I mean, every politician knows you need to be very careful about who you get happy snaps with. And for Daniel Andrews to be over in China, sharing the red carpet with the likes of Putin and Xi and the North Korean President Kim Jong-un, it just absolutely defies belief. I mean, even the Australian ambassador had the good sense to be 200 kilometres away at the time of this parade, which was absolutely sending a signal to the Western world about the rise of the military strength of China. And there's the former Premier of Victoria cozying up to the three of them. It is. I mean, can you imagine how Volodymyr Zelensky, how the leaders of countries that are being absolutely attacked by countries like Russia, how do our Australian-Ukrainian community feel about that? How does the Australian-Tibetan community feel that one of our former premiers is now cozying up to these despots? I just cannot believe it.
Honestly, I think it was just shocking from the very beginning. And then his statement that he released yesterday was just equally as appalling. There was no accountability for what he was done. There was just no sense, no recognition. I just think it's absurd. Now, look, let's move on because Anthony Albanese has spoken with Donald Trump for the fourth time since the president was re-elected in November. The PM said he had another warm and constructive conversation with President Trump. He says we discussed our trade and economic relationship as well as areas for growth, including critical minerals. We also discussed shared US-Australia security interests. Kevin Rudd was certainly eager to weigh in. He said lots going on in the US-Australia relationship and going from strength to strength. Andrew, so another call, the fourth, but no meeting yet. But does this give you some hope that maybe a face-to-face is on the way?
Well, look, it's really hard to judge what's going on from here, Danica, but I suspect this was an attempt by the Prime Minister's office to try and sound the President out as to how that interaction may go if there is a face-to-face at the General Assembly meeting in a week or so's time. I think that the Prime Minister's team is absolutely driven to try and ensure that there's not a repeat of the sort of embarrassment that we saw with the President and President Zelensky of the Ukraine, and whether this was some sort of ham-fisted attempt by the Prime Minister's office to try and test the waters to see, well, does he love me? Does he love the Prime Minister? I'm not quite sure. So, but the reality is it's now been 303 days since President Trump took office. We are supposed to be one of, if not the closest partner of the United States. Everybody seems, just about every allied country, their leader has met with President Trump in person, several occasions, and yet there's been no face-to-face with our Prime Minister. So it's going from bizarre to quite sort of cringeworthy and embarrassing now as to what's going on. Is the relationship breaking down? Is it that the Prime Minister doesn't want to be seen with him? I don't know. I mean, he certainly... people need to realise that the Prime Minister absolutely singled Peter Dutton out and tried to say to the Australian people in the lead up to the last election that Peter Dutton was Trump-like. And clearly that information has got back to President Trump, and I can't see that that would have gone over too well.
Well, you mentioned it's embarrassing. Yeah, it's also embarrassing that the Prime Minister now has to rely on a series of upcoming summits in the hope that he will actually bump into the President in the hope of having some sort of face-to-face meeting. It's really tragic.